What's up, guys? Nito here, and welcome back to another episode of Noteworthy Interactions. So, today I want to talk about some of the cool new interactions with Warcries that were introduced in the 3.25 patch. If you don't know, Warcries were changed a bit this patch, and they all kind of have different effects than they used to. So, Enduring Cry now gives 2% life regenerated per second per 5 power, up to a maximum of 25 power. Ancestral Cry gives plus 1% to all maximum elemental resistances per 10 power up to 30 power, so like plus 3 max on all res, which is really strong. And there is a new war cry called Vengeful Cry, and this is actually a retaliation skill, which means you can only use it after you take a savage hit, which is a hit that deals at least 15% of your maximum life. So you have a 2-second window basically after taking a big hit to use Vengeful Cry, and it gives you plus 25 to maximum rage and grants 3 rage per second per 5 power up to maximum of 25 power. So what this means is that you can actually get a lot of extra max rage from this Warcry, but it's kind of clunky to use, right? You can only use it after taking a big hit, and you only have a 2-second window by default. So it's a little bit hard to use for most builds, right? And I should also note that rage is now a more multiplier instead of increased damage. So 25 to maximum rage is kind of like 25% more damage, which is really, really big. And also note that that 25 max rage scales with Warcry buff effect. So you can actually get that up to like plus 50% maximum, or yeah, 50% more attack damage, stuff like that. So it's really, really strong if you can take advantage of it. The problem is, how do you actually use it in a way that's not super clunky, right? So what I am doing is I actually found a way to essentially automate it. And that's using the Eternal Apple, which is going to trigger a socketed Warcry skill on losing endurance charges. And you lose all endurance charges on reaching your maximum endurance charges. So as soon as you reach max charges, you're going to lose them, and then you're going to trigger each of the Warcries in the Apple. So how we're doing that, currently you can see I have 5 endurance charges, and these are 5 minimum endurance charges because I'm a Hierophant. And you get 4 minimum endurance charges from Conviction of Power here. And then I have another one from Anointing Disciple of the Unyielding. So that's giving us 5. And then I have 6 maximum charges. So I have an extra plus 2 on the tree, and then an extra plus 1 from Conviction of Power. So 6 maximum, 5 minimum. So that means whenever I gain 1 endurance charge, I'm going to hit my maximum. It's going to drop me down to 5 again. And basically, that's kind of the loop, right? And that's going to immediately trigger the next Warcry on cooldown. So how are we actually generating endurance charges? We're using Enduring Composure. So that's going to gain 1 endurance charge every second if you've been hit recently. So we're going to hit ourselves with a savage hit. It's going to trigger, it's going to cause us to start gaining endurance charges. And then it's also going to make Vengeful Cry usable for 2 more seconds. So we're going to gain 1 endurance charge a second later after we get hit, which is within that 2-second window. And then Vengeful Cry is going to get triggered automatically by the apple. That's basically what we're doing. And we're savage hitting ourselves with Forbidden Right, which is going to cause us to take 40% of our max life and 25% of our max energy shield as chaos damage. And we have this in a trigger weapon using the Takati's mod, which gives trigger a socket spell on using a skill with a 4-second cooldown. So every 4 seconds, we're going to hit ourselves with a savage hit. It's going to cause us to gain endurance charges, and then it's going to trigger all of our Warcries. So as you can see, it looks like that. And you can see my rage just popped up to 83 max rage, and my rage is regenerating from using Vengeful Cry. So it's a pretty powerful interaction. It has really good uptime. And not quite 100% uptime, but it probably could get to 100% if I had more skill effect duration or Warcry buff effect duration. But yeah, it's pretty close to 100% uptime as long as you're continually using skills. You're going to keep rocking it. And the cool thing is I'm actually a spell build, and I'm using Ravenous Passion, which gives makes rage grants spell damage instead of attack damage. So with 83 max rage, I'm getting 83% more spell damage, multiplicative more, which is really, really strong. And we're getting like Warcry buff effect and duration on the tree here and down here. So we have a bunch of extra buff effect. That's how we're getting from plus 25 max rage to plus 43. The only cooldown recovery for Warcries I have on the tree are these two nodes right here. I originally had this whole cluster here, but I decided like you don't actually even need it. As long as you have like enough Warcry duration and buff effect, like you're gonna have good uptime on this. And I'm using the Warcries have 10 minimum power, just so that, you know, even when there's no enemies around, it's still gonna start generating rage and stuff. And I'm also using the Rage Mastery that makes Warcries grant rage per power. So one of the cool things you can do is you can actually use Autoexertion with General's Cry. And General's Cry has a cooldown, a base cooldown of 3 seconds, right? Which is much lower than like the 8-second base cooldown of all these other Warcries. So because it's so low, you can actually get the cooldown to be like, where is it? Yeah, like 1.44 seconds, right? With just the apple, which has 50% Warcry cooldown recovery rate, and the 30% on tree. Yeah, that brings you down to 1.44 seconds, which is more than enough, right? Because you only start losing rage after 2 seconds of not generating any. So that means that because we're generating it like quicker than that, we're never going to lose rage, right? Like I'm just permanently at max rage here. The thing is, you don't actually need to do this with this Vengeful Cry setup. This is just kind of like another cool Warcry interaction you can do by just taking this mastery and this mastery. Again, you need the minimum power if you're gonna like if you want to be generating rage when there's no enemies nearby. I'm also using the remove all damaging ailments when you Warcry, so like that, because we're Warcrying so frequently, is gonna just like basically make us more or less immune to bleeds, poisons, and ignites. It's just gonna remove them pretty quickly. So that's pretty powerful as well. And yeah, I mean the rest of this character is basically I'm still leveling. I'm only level 87. It's nothing like too special. I'm on like a double 4-length setup using Exsanguinate and Reap, Fizz Dot, because spell damage, more spell damage from Rage is going to scale that pretty well. So yeah, I mean it's very generic though, so you could use really any spell skill with it. And I went for Hierophant because of the minimum charges. And obviously Arcane Surge granting more spell damage is also really good. But I'm thinking now I may end up re-rolling into a Chieftain just because having that Warcry infinite power is really, really strong for like these buffs here, like Enduring Cry giving life regeneration, Ancestral Cry giving max all res. You can also get more armor from Seismic Cry. You can get move speed from Intimidating Cry. You can get base crit chance from Battle Mage's Cry, stuff like that. So there's a lot of really, really powerful Warcry buff effect things. And having infinite rage, or infinite power, I mean, is going to just make it a lot more consistent. So I may end up re-rolling as a Chieftain here. But for now, this is kind of what I'm doing, and it's been working pretty well. The other thing you get to take advantage of is like from a Warcry cluster jewel, from an exerted attack medium cluster, you can get whenever you Warcry, you get Onslaught, so it's basically permanent Onslaught. And then you can also generate charges with Mob Mentality. You can use Warning Call, which gives you a bunch of armor. Yeah, stuff like that. So it's really strong, especially if you can come down to this area of the tree. The other thing is you can see I took Resolute Technique here. What I was doing, I'm actually not doing it anymore, so I can probably remove that now, but what I was doing is, because I was using General's Cry Autoexertion, I was actually linking General's Cry to Cyclone, and Resolute Technique is making it so that Cyclone can never miss. And then I was linking that to Maim support, so my General's Cry was just like permanently summoning dudes that were just maiming everything. And Maim makes enemies take increased physical damage, which is going to scale the Fizz Dot from Exsanguinate and Reap. There's other like interactions like that you can use. So like, for example, if you were like a Chaos Dot build, you could use Withering Touch instead of maim, and you can make you can make your generals cry warriors stack up with wither stacks pretty quickly, and just have it kind of automated that way. So that's really powerful. I ended up not doing it because I'm really like starved for sockets right now on this build because I have like two different main skills here, so it just takes up a lot of sockets. Plus, I need all these Warcries in the apple, and then I'm triggering like vulnerability and forbidden right and stuff in the dagger. So it's a little hard to fit everything in, but that is definitely a powerful interaction you can do with the auto exert General's Cry setup, which is just giving you infinite rage for the entire map and allowing you to just apply debuffs to the enemy. So it's definitely strong. It's like, I think there's a lot of potential with this interaction, especially if you can really go hard on scaling Warcry buff effect and stuff like that, and you just keep max rage up all the time. With Vengeful Cry, like it's real strong. So yeah, that's pretty much the interaction I wanted to showcase here. I think it's really cool. I'm gonna keep working on this character. There's like, obviously it's not really an end game character yet, but it's getting there. So or I may end up just re-rolling to teach it. We'll see. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.